What's going on? Welcome back to Trending Stocks. Today we're going to talk to you about SoFi. Give you a quick overview of some of the data points, what really moved it, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So SoFi went down 0.71% today. Nothing crazy, but if you do compare it with a lot of other growth stocks today, it definitely did lag. But I think what happened first thing, it had a quick sell-off to roughly 15.28, and then it did recover, but I think that just set the trajectory for the rest of the day ultimately. Even though there was no official news for SoFi, no SEC filings, I think in general it was just piggybacking off of most likely PayPal's earnings, and as well the market's starting to possibly realize something about SoFi, so I'm going to go over that in a second. But 28.9 million shares being traded, 43.01 is the average. So you did see very low volume, similarly on options. But as far as today, you did have Jolt numbers coming out a little bit worse for wear. So 7.6 million the actual, 7.8 the forecast. So when it comes down to that, it wasn't as good as what people were really anticipating, but I think the market took that for somewhat as a inverse positive because it did cause this to go up slightly. So now there's a 15.5% likelihood of a 25 basis point cut for the March 19th meeting. So I think the market still is in that inverse mode that it's really yearning for rate cuts. And so yeah, I think that's the market took that as somewhat as a negative slash positive. But when it comes down to social media, I see a lot of people saying that it was shorts. They were the culprit today, and that wasn't necessarily the case. Shorts did increase 102,000 shares, but still nothing really crazy. You can kind of see from the teal line, they didn't do jack all throughout the day. It was very, very quiet. And so I think, again, it's just with the lack of volume and maybe once again piggybacking off of potentially PayPal's earnings, it was just going down. PayPal's actual earnings were very good, similar to SoFi. Just the market didn't really see anything special about it. And I think at the same time there was this post done by this whatever individual, and it says SoFi 13 to 16 really feels like the new 5 to 8, which is very true. I'm kind of getting that feeling as well that it is bottomed, but it is like the good old days where ultimately it just kind of traded within that range. Nothing really crazy special, but it goes over here, not much to complain about, but oh man, it feels like it's been a second since any new product slash service offerings felt significant. So I think that's something that SoFi does really need to work towards. They have that fireside chat coming up next week, so hopefully maybe Anthony does allude to something being dropped. I think a lot of investors are really wanting crypto, but as far as any additional updates, not all that much is happening. Robinhood, you pretty much see something like a new product or variation of that coming out almost like every month. So they're definitely on the more innovative side. So I think some people are wanting SoFi to do that. SoFi is maybe just being a little bit too conservative, which might be good in a downtrend market, but I think right now, especially with the manufacturing data that came out yesterday, the market's ready to expand, and SoFi needs to jump on board if they want to kind of be standing out there, right? So I think in general, that's what really caused SoFi to just be blah today. Nothing really crazy, but it wasn't shorts. Just on a side note, 12.28% of the free float is being shorted, works out to be 132.17 million shares. Cost to borrow average negative 0.11, or sorry, not the average, that's the minimum. So once again, you're seeing that kind of sign of manipulation. Looking at options, 13 million in calls, 4.24 in puts. 47% of all the options being done were optimistic in nature though, so that's kind of a good thing. Couple pockets right here, so you do see some abnormal spikes, so that's clearly actual institutions, not retail, because retail I don't think is dropping 200,000 per option, or at least within a 5-minute candle. So I don't know, let me know your viewpoint on that. But like I mentioned, just the dollar value was extremely low, both in common stock and options. 17.3 million in total premiums today, 31.7 yesterday, and then 28.3 on Friday. So very low, and I don't think it's been that low since 17 million. Looks like on December the 31st, that was kind of the or sorry, right up here, January the 14th. So it's been a good 2 weeks, so very abnormal volume there. But of the call options that were purchased today, you do see a consensus for it to be roughly around that $16.50 to $17 range. So a certain level of optimism for that still is on the table. Bears are anticipating for it to be sub roughly $14.50 for this week. So despite the lower volume and everything, you are still seeing more upside, but clearly just big money with earnings week. Like obviously Palantir went up a significant amount, many others. I think maybe big money was just focusing on them, not necessarily SoFi or anything. These are all the transactions that did occur on the secondary market above $100,000. So it is kind of crazy. That is it. That is all she wrote. So very small amount. The majority of these transactions are sells. So this is that string of selling that happened first thing and ultimately did bring SoFi down during that kind of whatever it is, whatever you want to call it, quick crash. But yeah, let me know your viewpoint on that. With it at $15.29, it did close right below this S1, so 1532 will be a key kind of point to get over tomorrow early on. So that is that, and then $16 is going to be the following target slash resistance. 1491 and then 1424 is going to be the following support levels. Moving over here, no new analyst rating, so last rating did come out. It was yesterday, so $16 JP Morgan Reginald, who has a 50% success rating. Aside from that, even no articles of substance, just people referring to PayPal. So that's why I do feel that SoFi was somewhat lackluster today, just because of PayPal earnings. But on the actual chart itself, so right now that $15.80 mark is that 50-day moving average. So it did close below that regrettably, and it's actually going down after hours because a lot of big companies did miss on their earnings. Google, AMD, so not the best potentially outlook for tomorrow. But at the same time, I think just only positive is the fact that SoFi right now is considered very oversold, and you kind of see that based on the stochastic RSI. But we already do know what happens with SoFi if it doesn't actually regain some buyers or innovate, because it is below the 50-day moving average, insinuating you might see some further consolidation. But it is what it is. As what this post did state, it does feel as though we are at, once again, kind of the bottom range. It's very similar to the good old days where it was like between 5 and 8, back and forth, trade back and forth, over and over, rinse and repeat. So I think, yeah, it might be just continuing to trade between that 13 and let's say $16, $17 range for the foreseeable future, until either, let's say, the market breaks in some fashion, causes it to go down, or SoFi does decide to drop some good news, innovate, and cause it to go higher. So let me know your viewpoint on SoFi. Have you been doing anything? Have you been buying? Have you been selling? I myself actually haven't been doing that much, as far as I was going to buy the dip when that whole tariff fear came out. But as I kind of explained, I did end up accidentally shorting it, but I haven't really done anything with options or whatever like that. So if it does kind of, once again, continue to lag a little bit, maybe I'll start selling a little bit of puts. That way you can get some additional premiums in. But similar to pretty much the broader market, I'm focusing on companies' earnings and kind of playing those rather than SoFi. So let me know your viewpoint. Is there any other attributing factors why you felt maybe SoFi was lackluster today? And do you think it's more of a continued thing, or was it just more of a one-off? What's your viewpoint? Don't forget to hit that thumbs up. And then one final thing, pop over to my Patreon where I give buy signals on stocks, options, and crypto. Many of them have been absolutely on point and bangers, so definitely worthwhile to pop over there and take a look. With all that, appreciate all of you watching.